We were blessed to have 2 children with sickle cell, Sid and Kathy Ann. Unfortunately, we lost Sid at the age of, he would have been 31 in June 2nd of 2012. And we started the organization in order to bring awareness and to educate the public about the dangers of inheriting sickle cell disease. And every patient may have a different issue, and we make sure that our patients are being cared for properly. We don't just take your word for it. I go out there and make sure that it's being done the way it's supposed to be done. So we care for our patients.
Sickle cell disease is an inherited blood disorder. My parents had 4 children, and 2 out of the 4 had sickle cell disease. With sickle cell disease, your hemoglobin gives the red blood cells the ability to morph into other shapes. Pick a shape, it can do it. But unfortunately, these shapes are not good for the body. They get stuck, especially in the smaller capillaries, the smaller veins and vesicles, and that stuckness causes pain, excruciating pain, which I know. I've had 3 children. Never knew when I was in labor, because the pain of labor is nothing compared to a sickle cell crisis. I was in the worst crisis of my life. I mean, I had never experienced pain like this before. And I only go to the hospital when I'm not able to manage the pain at home. When I say manage at home, I have pain medication. We're talking Dilaudid, fentanyl, morphine sulfate. We're talking top-notch narcotics. And if that med is not enough to alleviate the pain at home, then it's time for me to go in. But unfortunately, the doctor was giving me less pain medicine than I take at home. The crisis was so bad that when I came out of the crisis, I could no longer walk. I had to have therapy to learn to walk again. So I just wondered, if I go through that, and I'm a healthcare professional, I can imagine what others in my sickle cell family go through.
With sickle cell patients coming into the hospital, most of them are patients of color. And the first thing that goes into the medical staff mind is that they're here drug seeking and they're faking it.
I'm in the hospital. I end up crying because the pain is that severe. And they ended up upgrading my medication to IV morphine. And they didn't upgrade it until 3 days later when my mom came to see me. At this point, my fever was at 103.5.
Jesus.
And then she kept talking about the puppies to keep me distracted, but I have 6 blankets on in the middle of summer.
You see, I think they don't want you to speak up. And once you start speaking up, they think that you trying to tell them how to do the job.
Right.
And they don't like that, because even when my son was in the hospital and he had one crisis in his 30, he would have been 31, and he went to the hospital, even though he was diagnosed as a baby with sickle cell, they're still asking me when did he get sickle cell? What do you mean, when did he get it? This is something that you were born with. I was just totally out of it. He's running, I'm trying to get help for him and I can't seem to get the help he needs. And I'm watching at my son and he's not making it. And then this morning the doctor came in, he said, "Madam, there's nothing I can do for your son." And what do you mean? I'm looking at him on the bed, he's 6'4", 185 pounds. And you're telling me it's nothing. He said his organs are failing. Okay, his organs are failing, do something, you're the doctor. I have no answers. They don't seem to know what's going on. And
Sickle cell was the first identified genetic condition. More than 100,000 people in America, but we receive the least amount of funding for research. A lot of it is racial. But this has to be overcome because we need to be treated as people. We're more alike than we are different. Anyone that has blood can have sickle cell disease. And I just want everyone out there to become aware and share. Know your sickle status. If you don't know you have the trait, you have the possibility of passing on that disease to your children. Now there's hemoglobin electrophoresis. So it's a simple blood test and you're able to find out. You need to know your sickle status, no matter the color of your skin.
You know, I was so concerned earlier when you told me that you were fired because you got ill on this job.
Yeah. So one night I got sick where I had to go to the emergency room. So I get up in the morning. I was so drugged up on pain medication. And I let them know, listen, I had a crisis last night and I had to go to the emergency room. I can't make it in today. The next day I went ahead to tell them the same thing, even though I had a letter from the hospital to be on rest. I sent that to them and all of that. I don't think they were pleased to the fact that I have an illness because they had a meeting while I wasn't there that I will no longer be a part of the team for long because I have an ongoing issue.
Wow.
I believe that when it comes to us sickle cell patients, we're not dependent. Like, we don't depend on somebody to do stuff for us. But when we work, we can't afford, even if the job is giving us insurance, we go in the hospital so many times for the year. Even if we're not admitted, but we're in the ER, it costs. So when you work in somewhere, you get a bill, you got an insurance, and you give it to them. And then you get a bill for $2,000. When you see that bill, it's going to put you back in crisis.
Yep. And then...
So I think that there should be some form of health care that's put together for us with a chronic illness. But sickle cell has been overlooked.
There's a lot of medical providers that still don't understand sickle cell disease because they look at you. She's a beautiful young lady. They look at you and what is this?
And then they say, you don't look like you have pain.
And this is the reason why that at the hospital that I am employed, as soon as a patient gets in there and I hear about sickle cell, I address it to them immediately. I say, and if that person's in crisis, we need to address it now, not just now, because they are losing oxygen through the entire body and it can be fatal.
We get treated by blood transfusions. I received a lot of blood transfusions, more than 50. But in getting those, also got the antibodies. And now I have rare antibodies, so my blood is very, very hard to find. The last time I had a transfusion, it came from Paris. But I use prevention, nutrition, rest. I know when I'm feeling low, I'm getting pale. That means my hemoglobin's going down. I'm more fatigued, so I just do things I need to do. Increase fluids, warmth, heating pads. I do supplements. I do yoga. I'm becoming a certified yoga instructor. I do meditation. I do seminars, workshops to help other people so that in turn that helps me. I raised all my kids with knowing they gotta be a rubber band. They can stretch, but you gotta bounce back to your original you. Might be a little different, might be a little sorer, might be a little achy, but you keep it moving.
My family is there with me. Like when I'm sick, you know, they're there with me. If I wake up and I say I'm not feeling good, they're going to support me. They're going to support me. And I always think about my daughter and I push. I push because I know she needs me. She needs me. And I always tell people, like, sickle cell, you have to have faith, strength to fight. Because if your faith is weak, you cannot get through it. Try to push through my day, thinking about my daughter, thinking about, okay, she said she's going to be a doctor. So I want to see her become that doctor.
Yep.
So I'm going to do everything I need to see her be successful at the end of the day.
That is why when I tell people, we talk from a parent point of sickle cell disease with children, because
We live it.
We live it. Difficult to digest that you lose a child, and watching you have an upcoming person as a child in front of you. You have all his energy, you have all what he wants to do in life, and you would lose him like that. But then, because of him, we are able to still come to the front and try to save other people. Probably, if he had stayed alive, I might not have been so involved. It may not be. But then with him leaving us, I had no other choice